Welcome to Breathe California TV. I'm Terry Trumbull, a volunteer for Breathe California, which is the lung health organization for the state of California. I'm on the board of directors for Breathe California in both the Bay Area and Monterey Bay. Today, we're going to be talking with my good friend, David Ginsborg, who's played a number of significant roles in Santa Clara County and recently moved to Santa Cruz. And I'm just going to be interested in his thoughts about things in the world. So come join us in 30 seconds after this public service announcement.
The different therapeutic methods that we can help our very low socioeconomic status clients who have no alternatives, no anything, and there's still about 15 different resources we got out of this that if you have no resources, no service connection, you can still get aid.
That they are connected, one encourages the other, and that the process of change from backing off from the tobacco is the same as backing off from any other addictive drug.
Everyone can benefit from this training that we just were offered today. I would not take it back.
Welcome back. This is Breathe California's TV show called Environmental Concerns. We've been on in San Jose for the last 30 years. I should say San Jose and Campbell for the last 30 years. So each week we're giving you a program with interesting people like today's guest, David Ginsborg, who's with Temple Bethel in, is it Santa Cruz, David?
Santa Cruz County.
Yes. So David had some very significant roles where I saw him in Santa Clara County. And how long ago did you move to Temple Bethel?
I took this position after retiring from the county just about 16 months ago. And I still live happily in San Jose with my wife.
So the county you're talking about is Santa Clara County.
Santa Clara County. I still live there in Willow Glen, and but I'm working in Santa Cruz County, actually in the city or town of Aptos.
So you and I did a lot of work together as volunteers in nonprofits, specifically the League of Conservation Voters. And I'm not sure you would call it a nonprofit, but citizens of Santa Clara County adopted a $500 million revenue measure to improve the management of water in Santa Clara County. And I think maybe the last 6 or 7 years that you and I were on that review body, you were the chair of our group. And of course, you had a long history that you could retire from in the assessor's office in Santa Clara County. So do you want to add anything in that our audience ought to know about?
Oh, thank you, Terry. Well, it's just a delight to speak with you today, Terry. You know, Terry and I, we've known each other now for several decades. And when I worked in the Santa Clara County, in my previous job there, I had served as deputy assessor to Larry Stone. I was one of 2 county executive managers who reported to Larry, and I did that position. I was there in the county for 25 years before retiring. This is one of multiple acts in my life. I've previously worked in commercial real estate in Southern California, and at one point even worked as a chief of staff to a member of Congress in DC. So I've had a variety of roles over the years. My current position is following a passion for marrying my values with my day-to-day work. In my current position as the executive director of Temple Bethel, I oversee an organization with 3 properties, including a beautiful 5-acre campus here in Aptos, as well as 2 cemeteries that are not just for the Jewish community, but for the entire community. And we've got a preschool with 50 children in it daily, as well as a thriving temple that has managed to make its way through COVID without losing members. We have 550 families. We are affiliated with the Reform movement, but we are also a Jewish community center and really try to be a host to many Jewish activities throughout the region, because we're the only permanent Jewish facility in this region. And we do our best to be more than just something for our congregant. We try to be broader for the community, very involved in social justice. That's a bedrock of Jewish values, and we're very involved in that. And Terry and I have just been very involved in environmental causes. We've intersected. I was chair of the bond oversight committee for the water district, and Terry and I worked together on trying to make sure that the water systems were going to be in place for decades to come. And we have worked hard on trying to improve the environment in our communities through a variety of very hands-on environmental projects to incrementally make a difference in global warming. And I believe Terry, through his career, has done that. And he's one of those individuals in our community that has really helped to build that over many decades. And so it's been a pleasure, and I'm trying to do that. We do that here in Santa Cruz as well, in my new position, where there's a big interest in environmental issues. And I'll let you take it from there, Terry.
Well, you're very kind. And at some point we can elaborate on that more. But when you say in this region for Temple Bethel, are you talking Santa Cruz County? I would find it hard to believe that Monterey County does not have a significant synagogue.
So Carmel has a small community with a building facility. So, but I consider, we along the coast there, all the way really to Monterey, and really up to Davenport and further. We cover quite a lot of land. Yeah. That for the Jewish community, it's, end to end, 60 miles, 40, 50, something like that. It's a lot of distance by driving on the beautiful highway coast. And from my office, I can walk outside and smell the ocean, and I can walk to a beautiful state park just adjacent to us. So it's as well as we have a great community college nearby.
Absolutely. So to step back a little, I think it's worth plugging that your former boss, Larry Stone, just got reelected.
He did.
This year. He's been 30 to 40 years as the county assessor.
Not quite that long, but he has been there now as the assessor for 28 years and just was reelected, and had a very successful campaign. And people have reelected him because he's just sort of a no-nonsense Democrat who's just kind of stood up for what he believed to be right and let the chips fall where they are. Pretty independent that way. And that was just the type of Democrat that I always felt strongly that I could comfortably work with. And he remains true to that value.
So Larry was environmentally a well-regarded Sunnyvale council member. And it was a little tougher in the 70s to do that, as well as one of my predecessors on the county planning commission. I don't know, maybe 1978, we had some statewide environmental initiative, and he was our county chair, and I had him do it was the lead on the fundraiser that we put on for a measure that passed. So
Larry remains a champion of environmental issues, and has been really since he moved to Sunnyvale. And I think he moved there in 71 or 72. And when he was on the Sunnyvale City Council, he led an effort to create the first open space authority in the region. and was on there, was a big advocate for, has been and remains both a financial supporter of and a vocal supporter of the creating open space in our region. And I think some of the look and feel of our community has been shaped by Larry's influence on the environment. And I will say it's for the better for our community. Having grown up in Orange County, which chose the opposite path when I grew up there, Santa Clara County and Orange County were very similar. No development in the hillsides, nothing had happened. Orange County went down a different path. They cut every hillside they could find. They put roads everywhere, and there remains terrible traffic. There's no transit to speak of. And Santa Clara County is a vastly different community. We chose to build in our cities mostly and to build upward. And I think we are reaping the benefits of that now.
So the other thing that we served on, you did a nice discussion of the water district funding measure. But if there's nothing about your history that should be said, it ought to be that we all need to be active, engaged in our government. We live in a democracy, and clearly keeping that alive and well has been important. And you were involved in, what was that measure that we were oversight on?
Well, it was
500 million.
It was close. It was closer to, I believe, $1 billion at the time, but I would have to go back and look at the numbers. It's been a number of years since that measure has passed. And I think most of the projects now have been, the money has been spent, and we're again seeing the benefits of that. And we also served together on the League of Conservation Voters. And I just want to say, we get the government that we work for and deserve. And what I mean by that is if we don't become engaged, then you can expect that you're not going to get the government that you would like. And I think we see that locally. I think generally our local government, City of San Jose in particular, is far better off than our national government right now. And we are more working together. And I think that's a credit to our Board of Supervisors, as well as to our mayor. And I think engagement is key. I have been on the NAACP board. I've been on the board of the leading LGBTQ board. And these are all ways of becoming involved. People can join Parks and Rec commissions. They can get involved in the League of Conservation Voters or Sierra Club, or there any number of environmental groups. And those groups collectively bring people and put pressure on our leaders. Leaders are followers fundamentally. Most leaders, they're looking to see where the community's going. And if there's pressure being put on them, it will make a difference. And I can't say enough about people standing up and saying, this is what's important to us, bringing others with you, going to City Hall, going to the County Board of Supervisors and saying, this is what's important for us, help us make a difference. And in this community, you will get a response. You may not like the response, but you will get heard, and you may see some incremental change. Change happens over time. I had the benefit of, nearly 30 years in the county, in Santa Clara County. And so I have the benefit of seeing that the social change occurs over time. I've had the benefit of seeing that over the past 30 years. But I will tell you that the arc of justice does bend in a progressive direction that is inclusive and brings people together. But it takes time and it takes people.
So just a couple of more praises for your and my work. League of Conservation Voters endorsed only local government candidates, and 85% of our endorsements won. And just for the public, it's easy to feel like state officials or federal officials are very remote. But my experience has been is that local governments officials, local elected officials are exactly like you said, well tuned in very attentive and willing to listen to people that show up and talk to them. So that said, we're at our first break. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this public service announcement.
My name is Rene Montez. I've been using the CPAP machine, I would guess 10 years. I got so accustomed to it, I don't go anywhere without it. I take it with me everywhere. From the moment I put it on, I thought it was the greatest thing because the breathing was a lot easier. And after using it for a couple nights, I felt a lot of energy. Breathe California is fabulous.
Welcome back. This is Environmental Concerns by Breathe California. We're located in an office in San Jose. If you've got time to volunteer, go to the website underneath my name or just call 408-998-5865. There's 13 different lung diseases, including COVID, that we're trying to help people deal with, and no shortage of issues that come up there. So one of my closest friends goes to a synagogue similar to you, the one that you work for, Temple Bethel in Aptos. Why don't you explain a little bit what you meant by reform movement
Sure.
within Jewish religion?
Sure. Before I do that, I want to make a note about something that Terry has talked about and has been a little humble on it. But Breathe California has been part of bending the arc of justice. 30 years ago, smoking was prevalent, and the impact on the lungs and the cancer was much more pronounced, especially amongst younger people. People are still addicted to tobacco, but I will say that they have made a measurable difference in improving both the public health, so that people so now there's a negative stigma with smoking that there wasn't. That is Breathe California. That's what you get when you give $1 to Breathe California. Secondarily, they have worked at changing the larger health community. And what I mean by that is they've intersected the public health community with the environmental community to say, how do we change the air in our community so that it never looks like what Los Angeles used to look like in the 70s? How do we make sure that our communities, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara County, never look like that? And they have done that. So in terms of, just to your question about Temple Bethel and the reform movement. So the reform, what we refer to within the Jewish community, there's multiple different communities, religious communities, and they go from what we Orthodox Jews to conservative, reform, and there's some Reconstructionists as in renewal as well. Reform is by far the very largest of the Jewish community in the country, and certainly in our region of Santa Cruz County. There are the other synagogues in our community, which rent typically, or actually we do events with them and help them host events, are typically in the dozens of members, maybe scores of members. So it's a much smaller, but the reform movement is much more associated with a inclusive. So you will see women on the bima, for example. You will see a different approach to prayer, a different approach to worship. There's much more English in the service, but there's all the tradition too. If you walk into a Reform service, you'll sing and hear a lot of the same tunes, a lot of the same words. It's the same Torah. We're using the same 5 books as the Orthodox community. We have a much more, I would say, we embrace and look to the Torah interpretively through our rabbis, and less so literally. I suppose that's probably one of the distinguishing differences. But those are the types of things that distinguish us. But the Jewish community is more together than separate. And so I think within the communities, we are ultimately one community. In part because in America, we're one community, in part because we're often defined that way by others. And I mean by others, I'm talking about white supremacists. I'm talking about those, they don't, when a white supremacist paints a Nazi swastika on Temple Bethel, as they have done, they're not picking a Reform synagogue. They're not picking a conservative or Orthodox. They just want to pick on Jewish people. That's all they know. So we are, as a community, more united and separate. And it is, though, that's very important for us.
To follow on with that, you were very kind to Breathe California. If our audience wants to know something recent, it was Proposition 31, which supported which passed and supported the legislature's banning of e-cigarettes and flavored tobacco, all to prevent kids from getting interested, because the cigarette industry had just gone nutso and trying to promote those types of things. And it's just prevention. The worst thing that we do health-wise is smoke. It's interesting, there's more heart damage done than lung damage. And we already know lung damage is desperately bad. So switching back to the end of your response, you mentioned a term, did you say bima?
Yes. So the bima is typically where you will see the rabbi preside over the services. So that's a location. Often it's a raised location. Behind them is almost always is an ark containing the Torah or Torahs. In our case, we have 3 Torahs. One is out on loan to a community that cannot afford it for the moment, Jewish community. So we have the Torah sits behind us, and we bring it out, and the rabbis unroll it, and they read from this week's Torah portion. And they do that from a location which is called the bima.
Good. So I have a neighbor who was my carpool partner taking our kids to the same school, and her family has invited me 3 or 4 times to Temple Bethel, that I think is Palo Alto, but it might be Los Altos Hills. Is it the same name as yours?
It is not. It is Beth Am, is what you're referring to, which is the largest Reform synagogue south of San Francisco. And they probably have 1,400 to 1,500 families. They're in Santa Clara County. There are a number of prominent, long legacy Reform synagogues that include Temple Emmanuel, of course, in San Jose, Congregation Shir Hadash in Los Gatos, which is actually my home congregation. That's where I still go to worship with my family. And Beth David, of course, which is the conservative movement in Saratoga. And there are others, Sinai, and others Orthodox in Willow Glen.
So just to expand on how the synagogue functions, Beth Am had a rabbi and a cantor. So explain what those 2 people do. A rabbi would think is analogous to a minister in Protestant churches or a priest in Catholic.
I'm going to assume that people have little knowledge, so if I apologize if this is redundant for some. So the rabbi's role, and we have 2 rabbis, Rabbi Paula Marcus and Rabbi Schiffer Wise Penzias. Rabbi Paula is our senior rabbi and has been in various roles with the temple now for probably 40 years. Rabbi Schiffer has been here for more than a dozen years. They are very committed. They frequently go to Israel. They lead the services, but they also help with the interpretation of the service. They help lead life cycles events. So they may, on any given day, they may go from counseling somebody who's in the hospital to helping with the naming of a newborn, to counseling somebody who's grieving, or officiating at a cemetery, at the Home of Peace Cemetery or Beit Alum Cemetery that in Santa Cruz County. Those are two different cemeteries. And one of them commonly known as Meter Cemetery, and the other is the SoCal Cemetery. And they're known legendary because, like, the Meter Cemetery is named after the Meter family from the Mormon community, very well known, as well as Sandy Koufax's family is buried at that cemetery as well. So we have, they do a lot of roles. They lead our education programs. They do all sorts of things like that.
So we got about 2 minutes left. I'd like you to say two things, and I apologize if you run too long, I'll have to interrupt you.
No
But the first is, what does this guy Ginsburg do for Temple Bethel? And the second is, what do you want the public to remember from seeing this show?
Well, what I want people to remember from this show is that there is a vibrant Jewish community here that is here to serve the entire Jewish community in the region. And you can go to our website, Temple Bethel Aptos. You just put that in the search and you'll find it. And we are here to serve. And we are here for the larger community. We do social justice. We have a DEI committee. We work with the African-American community, immigrant community, Latino community. We are here for this community. And my job is to help the rabbis be successful and help them let people know about Jewish values in our community, and to help our Jewish community feel welcome and be able to have life cycle events and feel that there is a place for them that is their home. And it is a home away from home. Temple Bethel is a wonderful place, and I urge people to come to one of our upcoming celebrations. We have many, most every Friday, and other days of the week.
David, thanks for joining us.
Thank
and extolling the virtues of your temple. It's well deserved, in my experience, in a whole variety of communities where the synagogues have been very significant and valuable parts of the community. We're out of time, so unless you got any quick rebuttals, we're going to move on.
I'm going to just say thank you. And I failed to also mention that we do have a Rabbi Emeritus many people will remember, and he's still here, Rabbi Rick Litvak, who has been here for decades and decades. So I made an omission, for which I apologize.
Thanks again, David. We appreciate
Thank you.
what you're doing.
Magnificent. Thank you.